So they're investigating something that never happened. There was no collusion between us and Russia.
Russia has consumed the president's mind over the past few months and has strained his relationship with Republican leaders, especially Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. The New York Times reports that Trump was even more animated about what he intimated was the Senate leader's refusal to protect him from investigations of Russian interference in the 2016 election. We're back with Eli, Heidi, and Jason. If I were Trump and I had any kind of conversations, either through my son-in-law or my son or my daughter, with the Russians that nobody knows about, yes, I'd be worried.
Right, and he's acted like he's worried, and he also betrays this naivete about thinking that people in D.C. can protect him, and that they are going to be loyal to him and protect him. I mean, he came in as an outsider. He torched D.C. and the establishment and the swamp, but relationships matter in this town. And so when you're looking at the fall and you're looking at an investigation that you're trying to stave off, when you're looking at Congress and trying to come up with something that is a win, he doesn't have anybody really who knows him and has a deep relationship with him here. Very few people, maybe David Perdue and a few others on the Hill, but just not enough. And then he's out there on Twitter every morning scratching the itch, and he's alienating them more.
You know,
so
Eli really understands this city, because I know how that works. Because if you have a question mark about somebody and you don't like them, you go after them. If there's a question mark about someone you do like, you go, well, let's see if there's more on that.
Most people don't take it out in the open.
If there's more on that, I'll move. But that's not enough for me to move right now. It's called prosecutorial discretion. But in a legislative context, it's always there. Do I give this prosecutor more muscle? Do I give more protection from being fired? Or just a little? And it's all nuance. And it's up to these relationships.
Well, look, I think the other problem is that Trump has not been able to demonstrate thus far that he can protect you either. I mean, we started at the beginning. Look at all the different people that he's fired. So even if I am a Trump loyalist, even if I think that Russia is absolute flimsy nonsense and created by the fake media,
hence the pardon talk.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's got to be able to pardon. He's got to be able to provide more support for the people who are going to take bullets for him. And right now, he hasn't shown that he's that good a shield.
Did you think about this? That up until this point, his entire life, he's a 72-year-old man, the way that he's actually gotten things done is by stomping his foot, kicking down, making people cower, because he's the chief executive, he's the sole proprietor of essentially a family-owned business, and you work for him, so you do what he says. Then he comes to Washington, and he tries doing that to Mark Meadows.
Right.
He tries doing that to Paul Ryan. He tries doing that to Mitch McConnell. Well, hello, Mr. Trump. There are people here in Washington who have equally as big egos, and they don't work for you. Congress doesn't work for you. It's a fundamental, also revealing of kind of a civic misunderstanding of the separation of powers here in Washington and how you get things done. Very different from, you know, being the sole proprietor of a family-owned business.
And the transaction is totally different because in his business, he's buying. So he can say, I'm not going to buy. All right, we won't do the deal. I'm not buying. You're going to be poor, right? He doesn't pay bills. We've heard that, okay? I don't have, but now he's asking people to do stuff for him. It's a totally different transaction, Jason.
And here's the thing, and he doesn't have the power, he doesn't have the knowledge of the city yet to even cower people into control the way he used to. Look, when senators walked into George Bush's office and said, you're going to listen to me, what did he do to Trent Lott? Just knocked him out, He demonstrated, he's like, look, if you don't get along with my program, even if you don't like me, and even if you don't like Karl Rove, I can demonstrate some political savvy and power. Trump hasn't been able to do that yet. Now, maybe if some of these Republicans
he knocks off Jeff Flake next year.
Exactly. If he can knock out somebody in a primary, but until then, he's a paper tiger.
And he does it in such a public way of bullying these people, such that the news reports get out, or he does it over Twitter. It's not that we haven't had presidents before who've been intimidating and maybe even bullying, like LBJ, but they did it in private. They didn't do it in public.
The more I hear about Jeff Flake's primary opponent, the more I like Jeff Flake, by the way.
Well, but a lot of people on both sides of the aisle like Jeff Flake because they have a relationship with him, and he's a decent guy.
He's the senator from Arizona.
It's the myopia. It's never thinking more than one play ahead with President Trump himself. And so who cares? Maybe he takes out Flake in a primary, but does she win that race, or do they give up the seat? And even if she wins the seat, what is the cost to the relationships with Mitch McConnell and the Republican caucus?
It's about placement of the ball after you made the shot. It's not just making the shot. Anyway, when we come back, a big test for president coming up this November.